So let's begin working on to the lower portion of the sleeve. I have put the markers. Let's just understand how to do it. On this side, in any one square that you choose, I have centralized the center 12 stitches that I have put the green markers onto. From 1st till 12th, we have 3 sections of 4 DCs. I have put in the very beginning and in the very end of those 12 on the 1 and the 12. Here the 3 sections of 4 DCs, and then skipping 3 DCs in the 3rd DC in every corner from green marker. I have put one purple marker in the 3rd DC from the green marker, like this on both the sides. So 12 and then 3 plus 3 makes it 18. So here we will be working on 18 stitches. Take out the green markers. That was just for our reference to centralize the stitches well, understand it well. And now tie the knot in any of the purple markers. So on the right side I am tying it, and we'll be beginning from this side. And first we'll begin to work the simple border as we did on the other side. Take out the loop, chain 3, and we'll be working DCs from this side till we reach the next marker that we have marked here. So yarn over into the next stitch, work 1 DC. We are aiming at working 18 DCs from this purple marker till that purple marker. So you can mark it anyways. So here I have reached the end, reached that next purple marker, and worked 18 stitches in the first square. Now I'm beginning the second square. The same way, just keep working 1 DC till you reach the end, and I have marked my square well, so I understand the stitch. Please mark the square well. You should have 18 stitches from one corner till the second corner of the same square every time you cross a square. As we already know that in the center we have 4 plus 4 plus 4, 12 stitches. So I marked in the first stitch of that 12 stitch, and then in the 12th stitch of that 12 stitch the green markers, and then from 12th on both the side from that one I counted 3, and in the third one I put my purple markers. So we have 18 stitches, and that way I'm working just to give you a better understanding of it. Hope that helps. So this is a simple round of border, and here I'm reaching the end at this square as well. So we have worked 2 squares until now. In the same way, work 2 more squares that are left, just keeping that 18 stitches intact from this corner till that corner in every square, and I'll see you at the end here. So I have reached the end of this round, made my last DC, completed the last 2 squares as well with the border of 18 DCs. Now in this top third, chain insert the hook and work a slip stitch to join this round here. And now we'll begin with our pattern on this side as well. So then chain 3, that also counts as a DC here. Work 1 DC in the next stitch, 1 more DC in the next stitch, and work 1 more DC in the next stitch. A total of 4 DCs in the first corner of the square are made. So just remember this number here. And for the round 1, chain 3 as usual, and we'll be having a little slight difference. So just keep following me. Skip 2 DCs in the third one, work 1 SC, then chain 6, and here we are skipping 4 DCs, and in the fifth one work 1 SC. Keep this in mind. Skip 4 in the fifth one, work 1 SC, chain 3 again, yarn over, skip 2 DCs. From the third one, work 4 consecutive DCs, one after another, at the top of each of the 4 consecutive DCs below, like this. 1, 2, 3, and 1 more, 4. So this is the pattern repeat: 4 DCs, chain 3, skip 2 DCs, in the third DC work 1 SC, chain 6, skip 4, in the fifth one work 1 SC, chain 3, skip 2 DCs, from the third one work 4 DCs, and just continue this pattern all through this round. This is the row 1, and we just need to understand this basic round. After that we'll just continue working round 2, round 3, again round 1, round 2, round 3. The same way we used to do. So on the other side, in the first corner, work 4 DCs again, and there are no deductions of any stitches, decreases of any ways on this side of the sleeve. So we have a total of 8 DCs between 2 squares, just remember this much, and we are working 6 chains, skipping 4 in the 5th. We are working S. So on the second square, I have worked 4 DCs, chain 3, skip 2 DCs, worked 1 SC in the third one, then chain 6, skip 4 DCs here, and in the 5th one we are working SC this time. Just remember this one, we are not going to reduce any stitches on this side. Chain 3 again, yarn over, skip 2 DCs as usual, and from the third DC work 4 consecutive DCs for this portion of the sleeve, and then we will be continuing 4 DCs on every corner in the lower section of the sleeve till we reach the very end, till we reach the desired length of our sleeve. So just continue like this, and I'll see you at the end of this round. So reach the end of this round, worked all the 4 squares. Now to join this round, just work a slip stitch in the top third chain, and this joins it. So to begin the round 2, chain 3, and in the next DC work 1 DC, 1 more DC in the next DC, and work 1 DC in the next DC, a total of 4 DCs again in the first corner of the square. Then chain 3 as usual, we'll follow the pattern. Work a picot with this, then yarn over and work 8 DCs in this chain 6 below. There is no change of pattern in round 2 and round 3. It's only in the round 1 that we are working 4 DCs on both the sides, both the corners of a square, and 8 DCs, or we can say that 8 DCs between 2 squares, and also when we chain 6 we skip 4 DCs beneath, and in the 5th one we work the SC. So then after 8 DCs, work chain 3, work a picot with that. After the picot, we have 8 DCs ahead, yarn over, just work 1 DC at the top of each of the 8 DCs ahead. This is how we are going to move in this round 2. And I would like to mention that this is on this lower section of the sleeve. There is no reduction of any stitches, and we are working in rounds as usual as we worked on the upper side of the sleeve. We will just be working the rounds in rounds only, and we will be slip stitching in the top third chain when we reach the end of a round. So I've reached the end of this round. So we first chain 3 and made 3 DCs, then a picot, then worked 8 DCs in chain 6, 1 picot, and 8 DCs between 2 squares. Just remember this one, this much, and continue like this. I have reached the end of this round, worked all the 4 squares, and just slip stitch in the top third chain like this. This finishes round 2 as well. For round 3, chain 3 and work 3 DCs, 1, 2, and 1 more, 3, and for row 3 there is no pattern chain, so chain 5, and in the center of the shell skip 4 DCs in the center of the shell, work 1 SC as usual, then chain 5 again, and as already I have mentioned, yarn over, we have 8 DCs this time between 2 squares. Just work 1 DC at the top of each of the DCs below, and we are not going to reduce or decrease any stitches, and all through the length of the sleeve on the lower section just keep continuing and repeating the 3 rows the same way I have explained till you reach the desired length of your sleeve, and maintain this 8 DC between the 2 squares. So here we first chain 3, work 3 DCs, then chain 5, work the SC in the center of the shell, chain 5 and 8 DCs, go all the way round. So here my sleeve length is reached. I have worked around 26 rows. In the last repeat I have just worked 2 rows, and we'll be bordering the sleeve now. So you can continue for more rows if you wish. So here I have my yarn already joined in the center of 8 DCs. So there Chain 10, we are working the fringe. After chain 10, hold it at the 10th chain, then chain and then insert the hook into the 4th chain from the hook and work a slip stitch. This creates a small ring at the end of this chain 10. Then chain 3, 1, 2 and 3 and turn this ring like this. Yarn over, insert the hook into this ring and work a DC. Begin counting. We are going to work 10 DCs in this ring all round. So just keep counting and after chain 3 work 10 DCs. So after working 10 DCs, please work chain 3. Chain 3 after working 10 DCs and then slip stitch into the center of this same ring like this. Then work chain 10, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. Then in the same place where we began working the chain 10, where we worked this little fringe, just slip stitch around that stitch to join this fringe here. A little small fringe is formed. Then chain 4, 2, 3 and 4 and just before this picot work a slip stitch. We'll work the next fringe here. Then chain 10. Hold it at the 10th chain, then chain 4. Insert the hook into the 4th chain, work a slip stitch to form a ring. Chain 3, turn this ring like this, yarn over and work 10 DCs into this ring. Just keep counting and keep working 10 DCs. After working 10 DCs, work chain 3. Then insert the hook into the center of the same ring, work a slip stitch like this. Then chain 10. This little fringe, the second fringe is created, and where we began working chain 10 for this little fringe, just insert the hook in the same stitch and work a slip stitch. And this is the little simple fringe that we are going to add around this lower border of the sleeve. Then chain 4 and skip 4 stitches, and here after the picot we'll slip into the center of the shell. Just remember, these are the two places we are going to slip. After chain 4, slip in the center of the shell, skipping 4 DCs. Then chain 10, plus 4, work a ring, working a slip stitch in the 4th chain from the hook like this. Chain 3, turn the ring and into this ring work 10 DCs. I'll work this fringe a little bit with you to give you a better idea of the same. And the same way work the fringe in the other sleeve as well. And the way we created this sleeve, just create one more sleeve the same way. After 10 DCs, chain 3 and into the same ring work a slip stitch like this, then chain 10. And into the same place where we began working for the fringe, work a slip stitch again. This is how it looks. then chain 4, we chain 4 and we skip 4 stitches. Then just before this picot, and then after this we'll be slipping in the center of the shell. So these are the 2 points we'll be creating our fringes at. So after the slip, and so just move all the way around till you reach the end, the same way, skipping 4 stitches. So we have 2 points just before the picot and in the center of the shell, and then just before the next picot and then in the center of the shell, chaining 4, skipping 4 and working a slip stitch after 4 and then the fringe. So here we first chain 10, then chain 4, work the ring with this chain 4, chain 3, work 10 DCs, chain 3, slipped in this ring, work 10 chains, skip 4 stitches, chain 4 and then work the slip after the 4 stitches. So I've worked my last fringe as well the same way, and at the base of it where you created this last fringe, just work a slip stitch to join this fringe here, then chain 4 and we have our first fringe ahead. After chain 4, work a slip stitch at the base of this first fringe here, and this joins the round. This was a simple fringe round. The same way create the fringe on the other sleeve as well. So here our fringes are ready at the end of this lower portion of the sleeve. The sleeve is ready. Put the knot and cut out the thread, and this is the upper section also ready here. So then divide the yoke in exact half, and from the marker on the one side where you have put the marker on the exact half, count 16 stitches, and in the 17th one put a marker, and all along just put markers like this. So let's once more understand. Here, if this is the exact half, the armpit where I have put this marker, from this stitch count 16 stitches, and then in the 17th one put a marker. Then again skip 16 in the 17th one, put a marker, and like this go all the way round the lower portion of the yoke. We are going to work the lower portion of the top. So here take out the marker, the very first marker, and join the yarn. The little section got deleted, so I am just telling you how to work the first row around with this simple demo. So then after you join the yarn on the first marker, chain 3 and we'll begin our first round. In the next DC work 1 DC. In the next DC work 1 DC. So we have a total of 3 DCs here. Then chain 3 as usual for our pattern, skip 2 DCs. In the third one work 1 SC, and there is a change here, chain 5, 2, 3, 4, 5. We are chaining 5 for the lower portion of the yoke, skip 4 DCs. Into the fifth one work 1 SC, chain 3 again, skip 2 DCs, and from the third DC yarn over and work 3 DCs. We just have changes in the first row of the pattern, and second and third row follows. So we have chain 3, then 2 DCs, then work 3 chains, skip 2 DCs in the third one, work 1 SC, then chain 5 this time and skip 4 DCs. In the fifth one work 1 SC, then chain 3, skip 2 DCs. From the third DC work 3 DCs consecutively. So this is how we are going to just repeat the same pattern all across all the squares. So between 2 squares we'll be having 6 DCs this time, 3 from this side and 3 in the beginning of the next square. So this much to keep in mind. So to begin the next square, take out the marker and work 3 DCs. That marks the beginning of the next square. After 6 DCs completed between the 2 squares, chain 3 again and skip 2 DCs. In the third one work 1 SC, and don't forget that we are chaining 5 this time in the row 1, skip 4 DCs, and in the fifth one work 1 SC, chain 3 again, skip 2 DCs, yarn over, and then work, skip 2 DCs below, and from the third DC work 3 consecutive DCs like this, 2 and 1 more, take out the marker, work 1 more here. So we are grabbing 16 stitches at every square this time. So the same way continue working across all the squares of the yoke on the lower side. This is the row 1. So I've reached the end of this round, worked my last 3 DCs. To join this round, insert the hook into the top third chain and work a slip stitch. And we have, each time we come here, we'll be working the half DCs first and then the rest of the half between these 2 squares. So then just continue working 3 rows one after another, but we'll be having increases, so just keep following me. So then in the next DC work 1 DC, and in the next DC work 1 DC, again 3 DC on this side. Then follow the pattern, the usual one, work chain 3, work a picot with this chain 3 and yarn over. In this chain 5 work 8 DCs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 1 more, 8 as usual. Then chain 3 and work a picot with this chain 3. Then we have 6 DCs ahead here between 2 squares. So yarn over and just work 1 DC at the top of each of the 6 DCs. This is row 2 and we are still working 6 DCs between 2 squares. So this is how we'll continue in this round all along till we reach the beginning of the round. So then one more time, chain 3, work a picot with this chain 3, yarn over. We have 5 chains below, just work 8 DCs in this chain 5, and always remember, for the lower portion of the yoke we'll be working chain 5, skipping 4 DCs, and in the 5th one we'll be slipping for the row 1. Then chain 3, work a picot, and then again 6 DCs ahead, just work 1 DC at the top of each of them, simple, and go all the way round across each square the same way. Just continue like this all the way round till you reach the very beginning, and I'll see you here. So here I have reached the end of row 2, worked my last 8 DCs and picot, and here is the last section of 6 DCs. Just work 3 DCs left out of which, so just work 1 DC at the top of each of them. Last 3 DCs worked. In this top third chain, insert the hook, work 1 slip stitch to join this round here. So row 2 completed. Chain 3, we are working the row 3 of the pattern. In the next DC work 1 DC, in the next DC work 1 DC. In this row as well we'll be working 6 DCs between 2 squares. So then chain 5, 3, 4 and 5, usual pattern. In the center of the shell, after 4 DCs work 1 SC, then chain 5, yarn over, we have 6 DCs ahead, just work 6 DCs, 1 DC at the top of each of the 6 DCs below. Until row 3 we don't have any increases, we are just working 6 DCs between 2 squares. So this is what we are going to repeat all through this round. So go all the way around and I'll see you at the end here. So I've reached the end of this round, worked my last 2 DCs, just one more DC to go, and insert the hook in the top third chain here to join this round here. So 3 rounds got completed without any increase. For round 4, chain 3, and we'll be working an increase in this section of DCs after we come back. I'll just tell you. So here, chain 3, yarn over, work 1 DC in the next DC, yarn over, work 1 more DC in the next DC here. A total of 3 DCs made here. We'll increase later in this section. Let's go ahead first with the row 1 again. So chain 3 here, skip 2 chains, in the third chain work 1 SC. We'll just follow a normal pattern. Then chain 5, we are chaining 5 this time for the lower section of the yoke. Remember this much. After the SC, skip 2 chains, in the third one work 1 SC. Chain 3, yarn over, and understand this thing here, we are going to increase in the third stitch. So work 1 DC in the first DC, 1 DC in the second DC, and here in the third DC work 2 DCs. That is the only change for this round. Everywhere you go. In the fourth DC again work 1 DC, in the fifth DC work 1 DC, and in the sixth and the last DC work 1 DC. So we have here a total of 7 DCs now. We have increased in the third DC. So go all the way round like this, just increasing in the third DCs. In the third DC work 2 DCs, that's it, and you'll be having 7 stitches between 2 squares. Then chain 3, follow the usual pattern, 2 chains below. In the third chain work 1 SC, then chain 5. After the SC, skip 2 chains, in the third chain work 1 SC, then chain 3, yarn over, one more time. In the first DC work 1 DC, in the second DC work 1 DC, and in the third one work 2 DCs. Remember, this is the 4th round and we are increasing in the third stitch. And then just keep working 1 DC at the top of each of the remaining 3 DCs. We have a total of 7 DCs between 2 squares this time in row 4. Like this, move all the way round and I'll see you at the end. It's a simple round of increase. So here I have reached the end of this round here. And as we are working this section of DC in halves, so after the last chain 3, we have 3 DCs left. Work 1 DC in the first DC, 1 DC in the second DC, and we have reached a third DC now. In this third DC, work 2 DCs as we have been working through this round. So a total of 7 DCs again in this section. Insert the hook in the top third chain and work a slip stitch to join this round here. This finishes round 4 and we have a total of 7 DCs between 2 squares. For the round 5, that is like round 2, chain 3, and work 1 DC in the next DC, 1 more DC in the next DC. Total of 3 DCs worked. Now for the round 3, as usual, chain 3, this is like round 2, sorry, and after chain 3 work a picot, then yarn over. In this chain 5 work 8 DCs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. Chain 3 work a picot as usual, and then this is the place to remember. For this round, just work 1 DC at the top of each of the 7 DCs below. No increases in this round. So this is the pattern we'll be repeating all the way this round. We had increased in the last round. Just work 1 DC at the top of each of the DCs below, and we should have 7 DCs between 2 squares here in row 5 as well. So just keep moving like this all the way round in this round, all along the yoke, and I'll see you at the end. So here I've reached the end. One more DC to go, and then join the round in the top third chain. And remember, each time we reach here, we always slip stitch in the third chain to join the rounds, because we are working in rounds. And for the next round, so we increased in fourth round, fifth round is done. Work 2 more rounds the same way, working 7 DCs between 2 squares, and I'll see you then. So here I've reached the end of this round, and in the fourth round we had increased in the third stitch. Then I worked 5, 6 and 7 rounds now, working 7 DCs between 2 squares. And now to begin the round 8, we are again going for an increase, so be watchful now. So here then, chain 3, we have 7 DCs in total in the round below. Work 1 DC in the next DC, and in this last DC work 2 DCs. In the next section of DCs you will get the clear picture. So here we have increased in the last DC. Now just continue with the pattern. Chain 3 work a picot, this is like row 2. Yarn over, work 8 DCs in this chain 5. Then chain 3 work a picot with this chain 3, and now let's understand the increase here in this 8th round again. So then yarn over, we have 7 DCs. In the very first DC work 2 DCs, 1 and 2. So we increased here. Then in the next DC, second DC, work 1 DC. In the third DC below work 1 DC. In the fourth DC below work 1 DC. In the fifth DC work 1 DC. In the sixth DC work 1 DC. And in the seventh DC work 2 DCs. 1 and 1 more in the seventh one here. So as you can see, from 7 we have increased to 9. We have increased 1 stitch in the first DC and 1 stitch in the last DC, and in between the two increases we have kept the number same. So a total of 9 DCs. Just work all the way around like this, very simple round. Then chain 3 work a picot, will just follow the pattern of row 2, In this chain 5, work 8 DCs. This is row 8, where we have a total of 9 DCs between 2 squares. Chain 3, work a picot with this chain 3. And then we have 7 DCs. We are going to increase in the very first and then in the very last DC of this section. The same way as I already explained, yarn over, work 2 DC in the first DCs. Then work 1 DC in each of the upcoming next DC till you reach the last DC. And in the last DC again work 2 DCs. A total of 9 DCs between 2 squares. Simple round. Just work all the way round like this, working 9 DCs between 2 squares. The same way I'll see you at the end here. So here I've reached the end of this round. Work my last picot here, and because this section is worked in half, so yarn over, and in the first, this is the first DC of this DC section, work 2 DCs in this first DC, and the same way we'll be following in all upcoming rounds for this DC section. So 2 DCs worked in the first DC and then work 1 DC atop the rest of the 3 DCs below. And we had already increased in this section for the last DC. So after these 3 DCs worked, insert the hook in the top third chain, work a slip stitch, and this joins this round here. So this is round 8 and we have increased 2 stitches, and work one more round the same way. Just work 1 DC at the top of each of these 9 DCs. So chain 3, just work 1 DC at the top of each DC below. This is row 9 and we'll be working 9 DCs between 2 squares. Then chain 5. In the center of the shell, work 1 SC, just follow the pattern, chain 5. Again on this side we have 9 DCs, just work 1 DC at the top of each of them. So in the row 9 we are just working 1 DC at the top of each of the DCs below, working a total of 9 DCs between 2 squares. And rest we are just following the pattern like row 3. Then chain 5, work a picot, skipping 4 DCs of the shell in the center of the shell here. Chain 5 and work 9 DCs, 1 at the top of each of the DCs below. In this section go all the way around. I'll see you at the end of row 9 here. So here I've reached the end of this round. 2, 3. In the 4th round we increase in the 3rd DC. Then in the 8th we increase in the 4th and the last DC. So had 9 DCs in total, and in the 9th round we just continued working 9 DCs between 2 squares like this. To join this round, insert the hook in the top 3rd chain as usual. Join this round with the slip stitch, and for the next 10th round also we are going for an increase, a simple increase. So chain 3, yarn over, work 1 DC in the same place you created the chain 3. So we have 2 DCs here in 1 DC. Then in the next DC work 2 DCs, 1 and 1 more, 2, yarn over, in the next DC work 2 DCs, 1 and 2. So at the top of 3 DCs we have 6 DCs now in the row 10. Then follow the pattern. This is like row 1 of the pattern. Chain 3, skip 2 chains below. In the third chain work 1 SC, then chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. After the SC, skip 2 chains. In the third chain work 1 SC, then chain 3. And let's understand this DC section again. For this row, for the increase, in every DC below we are going to work 2 DCs, simple round. So work 2 DCs in the first DC, the second DC made here. Then work 2 DCs in the second DC below. Then again work 2 DCs in the next DC. Again work 2 DCs in the next DC. One more time, 2 DCs in the next DC till we reach the end. In the next stitch work 2 DCs, 1 and 1 more, 2. In the next stitch work 2 DCs, 1 and 1 more. In the next stitch work 2 DCs, 1 and 1 more here, and in the last stitch again work 2 DCs, 1 and 1 more, 2. So here at the top of 9 DCs we have created 18 DCs, and just like this we'll be continuing between 2 squares, we'll be working 18 DCs. So then chain 3, skip 2 chains, in the third chain work 1 SC, then chain 5. Then after the SC, skip 2 chains, in the third chain work 1 SC. This is like row 1, then chain 3. And here the DC, in this DC section again work 2 DCs at the top of each of the DCs below. Very simple round of increase. And move all the way round like this. I'll see you at the end. We are working 18 DCs in the DC section, 2 DCs at the top of each of the DCs below. So here I have worked my last chain 3 of the pattern. Yarn over, just work 2 DCs at the top of the remaining DCs of this section. So in the first DC work 2 DCs, in the next DC work 2 DC, in the next DC work 2 DCs, 1 and 1 more. In the next DC work 2 DCs, and in the next DC also, the last one, work 2 DCs. To join this round, in the top third chain insert the hook, work 1 slip stitch. This finishes row 10 here. So for round 11 again we'll go for an increase. So understand this section. Chain 3 and work 1 DC in the same stitch you created the chain 3. Yarn over, work 2 DCs in the next DC, 1 and 2. Work 2 DCs in the next DC, work 2 DCs in the next DC, work 2 DCs in the next DC, work 2 DCs again in the next DC, and in the last DC also work 2 DCs. So this is like row 2 of the pattern. Chain 3, work a picot, yarn over, work 8 DCs in this chain 5, Then chain 3, work a picot, and let's understand this section. In the row 11 again we are going to work 2 DCs at the top of each of the DCs below. So from the first DC, begin working 2 DCs in every DC below. 2 DCs in the first DC, again 2 DC in the next DC, just keep working 2 DCs in every DC below. This is the 11th round of increase, 11th round where we are increasing, and we are working 2 DCs at the top of each of the DCs below. So between 2 squares this time we'll be having a total of 36 DCs. In row 11, between 2 squares in this section of DCs, we are working a total of 36 DCs. And in the last DC also work 2 DCs. So this is the kind of ruffle we have created here, working 36 DCs at the top of 18 DCs, and then work the usual pattern, chain 3, work a picot, work 8 DCs in the chain 5 below, then chain 3, work a picot, and in this row just remember we are working 2 DCs at the top of every DC below, and rest keep the pattern like row 2 and go all the way around. I'll see you at the end of this round here. So reach the end of this round, worked 2 DCs at the top of all the rest DCs of this section, and slip stitch in the top third chain to join this round here. Let's have a look of the yoke. We joined the shoulders and then join the yarn on the lower portion of the yoke, and then we are working with the increases in this yoke section. Now there are not going to be any increases, as we have worked 36 DCs between the patterns, between the 2 squares. Just keep working 1 DC at the top of each of the DCs in every row ahead, and carry on the top till your desired length, working 36 DCs between 2 squares. So here I have worked my desired length. After working 36 DCs between 2 squares, I just continue working 36 DCs in every round, and I have worked a total of 19 such rounds. After that, if we measure the length, it's around 17.5 centimeters unstretched. So I've reached my length. You can increase the length if you wish, or you can keep it to any row you wish to. You can stop anywhere. See how frilled it is. So this top is completed on this section here.